Hey there, Shooby Doodlers. This is so complicated doing this live. I must have set this to go a bit earlier, I think, but it was meant to be at 4 o'clock. But anyway, if you're still there, then thanks for joining me here on Lockdown Story Time. So this is day 2 of quarantine. I've noticed the various things on Twitter turning up now. There's hashtag kidlit quarantine and hashtag kidlit coronavirus and things. So lots of people all around the world, schools have been closed and kids are stuck at home. I know there are many of you teachers. I hope there are teachers watching. Can encourage your children to come and watch this every day. I'm going to not just tell a story, I'm going to tell one of my stories, and I can tell the story behind the story and do some drawing as well. So today, I've decided I'm going to go right back in time, and I am going to tell you this story here is called Victoria, the Wednesday Market Bus, and I wrote this, well, let me when you look inside a book here, it gives you the printing history, and this tells you this was first published, if I can find it. I'm going to need my glasses. I thought I had everything ready. I need my glasses to read this. So where we first published, well, that's first American edition. This is the American edition. First published 1988. So that's 32 years ago. And I know I don't even look like I'm 32. It's amazing, isn't it? So, well, why did I write this? I had just kind of really started getting going as a children's illustrator, and I was doing some illustration work for Blackie, who were an old children's book company based in Glasgow, and but I sort of dealt with their London office, and had gone in there, and I had met Philippa Milne Smith, who was a young, fresh new editor, and she sort of tucked me under her wing and said, come along, we'll do some books. And then one day she said to me, I think you should write something. Really? And so she said she was doing this series called Town and Country Stories, and she said you're living out in the country, I think you should write the country stories. I said, I've got no stories. She said, you live in the country, you live in the village, and go and think about it. And so I went home, and actually on the way home, there's another story I will read eventually called Lamb Drover Jim, the champion sheepdog. On the way home, I was on the train looking out of the windows, and I saw a field full of sheep and a farmer and a sheepdog and a Land Rover vehicle. And I thought, Land Rover, Lamb Drover, and it ding. And we'd had an incident in the village the year before involving sheep and stuff, and I put the two things together. But Victoria, the Wednesday Market Bus. So I was living in a tiny little village way out in the country, and I'm working very hard at sort of becoming a children's book illustrator. That was my intention. And Wednesdays was like the big day of the week because it was market day in town, and everybody would come to town. And so I was living with my mum at the time, and we would get in the car and we would go into town to the market, and we'd do our marketing. I would go to the library and change my books, and then we would eventually go to see my mum's friend Pat, who used to run the sports shop where everybody came in to buy their fishing rods and stuff like that. And we go and have a cup of coffee with Pat, and then we come home. So Wednesday was a big social day, and so that's what I thought. I thought, well, how do you get into market? Because a lot of people didn't have cars and things, and so they would get the bus into market and get the bus back home again, and carrying everything with them. And so I thought, maybe there'd be a special market bus, and so this is what the story's about. And when I've read it, I'm going to show you how to draw the Wednesday Market Bus. So while you're listening, see if you can find a pen and a pencil. It's not an easy draw, this one, but I'll show you how I go about it and what my thought process is while I'm drawing it. So let's change over to the overhead camera, and then you'll be able to see the pictures as well as I read you the story, which actually I haven't read in a long time. So let's see what happens. And yeah, there we go. Overhead camera, Victoria, the Wednesday market bus. And as I say, I was living in Wales, which is quite mountainous sort of backdrop here. And we can have some sound effects here. Oh, that's good. There we go. And so here's Victoria coming over the hill. And we got a better sound effect than that. Where is it? Is it that one? That's the one. Yeah, coming over the hill. And lots of sheep in Wales. And here's the bus stop. And yeah, when's that bus going to stop? Okay, you can stop now. Okay, yeah, okay. Stop. Okay, good. And okay. And brake, park. Can you stop? This is a very long sound effect. Okay, stop beeping that horn. Okay, there we go. Early every Wednesday morning before the birds begin to sing. I should have my glasses on to read this. Every Wednesday morning before the birds begin to sing, Mr. Jones gets out of bed and creeps out to his barn. And there sleeps Victoria, the Wednesday market bus. She is very, very old, and her engine is older still. I'm not quite sure how that works. It might have been replaced at some time with an older... Anyway, never worry. Only Mr. Jones knows how to keep her going, and only Mrs. Jones knows how to drive her. And look, the chickens are laying their eggs under the bonnet. Their bonnet, we call it a bonnet. You may call it a hood wherever you live. So there you go. Oh, cluck go the chickens as Mr. Jones takes them out of Victoria's engine. No wonder it doesn't work. He cleans away the straw, fills the tank with oil. He should fill the tank with petrol, really, shouldn't he? Or gasoline, gas. So we're trying to be international here. And then he polishes Victoria until she gleams. Mr. Austin, the man who works at the garage, has had a new engine waiting for Victoria for the last 10 years. Oh, that old engine of yours should be in a museum, he says to Mr. Jones, and so should Victoria. But Mr. Jones just laughs. And then there's time for breakfast. There's just time for breakfast before they set off. She's ready to go then? asks Mrs. Jones. She's always ready, says Mr. Jones. After breakfast, Mrs. Jones puts on her driver's hat and climbs into the driving seat. Crunch go the gears. I should have noises, shouldn't I? Crunch go the gears, and squeak go the brakes, and creak go the wheels, and vroom, they're off. Now Mr. Plum is waiting for them at the station. He has boxes of oranges, apples, bananas and pears to sell at the market, and Mr. Jones helps him pile all the boxes on top of Victoria. You really want your own truck if you're running a fruit and veg stall, really, don't you? And this is the train station here, and this is based on Slough railway station in wherever it is, Berkshire, isn't it? And every time you don't really see it now. When you go into that station, you don't see the roofs anymore because they've built stuff and things, but it has these beautiful old Victorian roofs, and whenever I went through that station I'd always get to stop and look, or maybe even draw. Now just a mile down the road, I'm going Welsh again. Now just a mile down the road, Mr. Sprout is looking at his watch. Oh, will Victoria be on time? He has lots of vegetables to sell at the market today. And Mr. Jones puts all the fat red tomatoes and the green leafy cabbages on top of Victoria. They will have to go more slowly now with all this on top. And there's Victoria coming down the hill in the background. And a cat sleeping in the sunshine. Outside Rose Cottage, Mrs. Featherbed sits on her basket. She's getting old and her legs are too wobbly to stand for long. But she'd never miss the Wednesday market. She's got too many eggs and chickens to sell. Mr. Jones helps her onto the bus, And the chickens flap and flutter because they've never been on a bus before. I don't think you don't see chickens being sold in markets anymore, but you did in those. Still saw them in those days. I think maybe some markets you do. And I she's kind of based on a lady that used to come down from the farms. It used to be kind of Thursday afternoons, I think, and she and her brother ran a farm way up in the hills. And she would come down to the village on Thursday afternoons and deliver butter that I particularly remember, eggs and butter. And she used to make her own butter, and it came wrapped in paper. And it had a stamp. It had her own stamp on the front. I can't remember what pattern it was, but it was just the best butter in the world. Never had anything as good since. Now, down at home farm, Mr. Meadows fills the churns with milk and wraps the cheese in paper. And then he loads everything into the trailer. He knows there's not enough room inside poor old Victoria for all this. She'll have to pull the trailer instead. The old donkey is coming to market too. Every Wednesday Mr. Meadows takes him to market, but no one will ever buy him. He's far too stubborn and bad-tempered. He looks a bit bad-tempered, doesn't he? Mr. and Mrs. Lamb have sheep to sell as well as the jumpers they make from all the wool. Mrs. Lamb knits all the way to market, and the sheep have to go behind Victoria in another trailer. Baa, baa, they bleat loudly, and the old donkey gives them a hard stare. There's the donkey. And here times have changed. I think in around about 2000 we had a massive foot and mouth disease epidemic in the country, and all the animal markets closed down, so sheep don't go to market like this anymore. They get sold online and things, so it's a funny old world. Victoria rumbles and groans along the lanes. Only one more stop now before market. Miss Binding is waiting with the mobile library. "Oh, I hope you've got some new books today. I've read all the others," says Mr. Jones. Every Wednesday it was always the same. And then it happened. As Victoria climbed the last steep hill before town, there was a splutter and a choke and a puff of smoke from the engine. And then she stopped. Mrs. Jones looked at Mr. Jones, and Mr. Jones looked at Mrs. Jones, and Mr. Jones looked at Mr. And Mr. Jones looked at Mr. Jones, Mr. Jones looked at Mrs. Jones, and Mrs. Jones fiddled with the gears, and Mr. Jones scratched his head. Then he got out of the bus and said, "Well, I think we'll just have to push." So everybody got out, except Mr. and Mrs. Jones and old Mrs. Featherbed, who was too wobbly on her legs. They took off the trailers and the library, and they heaved and they pushed Victoria up the hill. Heave-ho, heave-ho. And I remember thinking that was a very large bottom to be painting as an illustrator in those days. The old donkey was beginning to feel cross. He hated going to market every week, and he did not want to sit in the middle of the road in a stupid trailer. He jumped out of the trailer and brayed loudly. And then he charged straight for Mr. Meadows' large round bottom as the farmer heaved and pushed Victoria up the hill. "Yow!" yelled Mr. Meadows, and gave Victoria one huge push. Just as she reached the top of the hill, over Victoria went, and down the other side, and straight into Mr. Austin's garage. She went faster than she had ever gone before. "I suppose you've come about that new engine," said Mr. Austin, "and about time too." And they all laughed. And Mr. and Mrs. Jones quite forgot that the rest of the passengers were waiting at the top of the hill. Here's Victoria coming down, Mrs. Featherbed looking a little bit worried. and all the other passengers at the top of the hill. I used to use a very fine pen in those days when I was drawing these. Mr. Austin had just finished putting in the new engine when Jim Green, the farmhand, arrived on his tractor. And behind him, he was pulling 2 trailers, a mobile library, a flock of sheep, an old donkey, Mr. Plum, Mr. Sprout, Mr. Meadows rubbing his bottom, Mr. and Mrs. Lamb, and Miss Binding. "I think this lot belongs to you, Victoria," said Jim. Well, they all had a good day at the market, and Mr. Meadows even sold the old donkey to a man who gave rides to children at the seaside. Yeah, he's taking the money for it. And every Wednesday now, Victoria speeds off to the market with her new engine purring. Mr. and Mrs. Jones having fish and chips. And on Sundays, she takes Mr. Meadows and lots of children to visit the old donkey at the seaside. And there they all are paddling and having fun on the seaside. And this is Aberdyfi, which is a kind of seaside resort in Wales. It's not quite the seaside, it's in the estuary, so it's not quite around the corner and into the sea. But there we go, and here's Victoria. So I can press that button and come back here. There we go. And what else can I think about that? I don't know. It was very, very early days in my illustration career, really. And as I say, I'm quite surprised looking at the pen. It's very, very fine. I don't use a pen that fine anymore. And it just kind of takes me back. I used to work in a little shed in the garden, and I still work in a little shed in the garden, just a different one. And when I painted this one, it was a very old barn in the garden, really. It was sort of stone built with slate roof. And this shed here I built myself. And what's that film? I can't remember, with the barn raising. And I got my mother and my wife and my daughter to hold all the bits. I made the frame on the ground, and they held all the bits together while I hammered them in together. And so I've been in here for about 10 years or something. It's not the biggest place in the world, but this is where I work, this is where I write, this is where I illustrate my books. And now I'm going to show you how to draw Victoria, which is, well, let's have a look. I'll go to the other camera. And let me get a piece of paper like that. And I'm just going to zoom in a little bit like that. And I'm going to get a little bit of... Have you got some paper and pencil yourself? So I'm just going to stick a bit of tape on there so it doesn't move around too much. And I need my glasses again. There we go. And so basically it's a box. And what I'm going to do is draw the side of the box, which is a parallelogram. So these two want to be vertical, and then those are going up at an angle, but they're all parallel to each other. And then we want to draw another parallelogram on the side here, like that. So that's going to be the front. And then we draw another parallelogram. So these are parallel. It's like a maths lesson, isn't it? There we go. And then we want to split this into about 3, very, very gently. Can you see all this? I think so. Yes, you can see. That's fine. And then we want to come, if that's about halfway up, come a little bit further up. And we draw another line that's sort of parallel halfway through, another one going all the way back there. Now comes the tricky bit. Okay, so this central little section here is going to be the radiator, the bit that's on the front. So it's this bit here. Okay, so this might be slightly different proportions on here. It's going to be quite a lot of different proportions, very different. So, and then here you can see it's not straight, it's coming up and around like that. So we want that to come up and around there. And then the actually that wants to be straight across. And then the cabin part here starts halfway through, so that wants to come up there too, kind of like that, which means this is then going to come back parallel to this line. There's an awful lot of working out the parallel bits here, and then we're going to have the bonnet, or the hood, however you want to talk about it, is going to be kind of like that, coming down there. Imagine it sort of going there. So then we want this wheel arch to be then sort of coming around like that. So, this isn't easy at all, is it? In fact, this is extremely difficult. So that would be coming about like that, and that would be coming down to there and around about to there, so that we can then have the wheels inside there. We'll have another one underneath. And then this is going to be going like that. So again, it's all parallel. All these things have to be parallel. That line will be going back. And I think I can make it a bit shorter actually, like that. Cut that bit off at the back. And then this is so difficult. So we can have a window like that. We'll have an angled window there and another window going at an angle there, because this is coming back at that same kind of angle and meeting there, and then this will coming back there. This is a funny old bus. They did make some funny old shaped buses in the old days. And I'm kind of thinking, I think bus is a fairly international term. I can't think that anyone's going to want to call it anything different. Greyhound bus, yeah, you call that a Greyhound bus, don't you? Yeah. So then this wants to curve round there as well, so that will curve. We'll have a curve and a curve. if you are trying to draw along with this and think I can do that, then what you want to do is, because this is a kind of a made for kids program on YouTube, made for kids show, then that means we can't have comments and we can't have chat on the live feed, I'm afraid. But what you can do is you can go to Twitter, and you can, if you want to draw your own and let me see it, then that would be terrific. So if you look for at Shoo Rayner, you'll find the links down below in the comments box. And let me see your drawings on Victoria the Wednesday Market Bus. That would be absolutely amazing. And then I can share your drawings here, because I'm going to keep doing these shows and just see how it goes. And I need your help. I need you to send me stuff like that and sort of ideas. So now I can go to the ink. This is what happens, you see. Oh, and then we need to think about a roof rack on the top. I'm not going to put anything in the roof rack, because that would just be even more complicated. So I always like to think what's the nearest thing, and I think probably that roof rack probably is. So I'm going to go all the way across like that, and down, and into there, and it's sort of curved. So we want a bit of a thickness to the edge there, and then that will curve around. And then I'm going to do this little window that's going to be kind of open on the top there, and like that. And in fact, I wonder whether I should say, no, that's too complicated. I'm thinking of something. I'm just thinking as I'm talking, so blah 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 blah. So and now actually we're going to need what we would call a bumper, but you may call it a fender. This is English and American are the same language, divided by the pond. So now this is going to be tricky. So here we want to put a headlamp in there like that. And we want to put another one there like that. So it's not a circle. It's a circle if you're at the front, but because you're at the side, it's like an ellipse. and then that will go back, and then that will kind of come around like that. So then we can put the mudguard in there. Mudguard, I think that's what you can, yeah. And so here we can now put in the radiator. I think you'd call that. Is that? I think that's a fairly international term, radiator, on a car or on a vehicle. And then that's not right, is it? Yes. No. Yeah, that should be going up there. That's right. Yeah, and then that will just dot and fade away, and then that can come up to there. Oh, I've gone a bit over there, haven't I? Yeah. So that will come kind of down there like that. Maybe a bit more like that. So it's, yeah, talking and drawing at the same time is it's not natural, actually. I don't think, you know, drawing is a left side of the brain thing, and talking is a kind of right side of the brain thing. So it's talking and drawing is a bit like, you know, tapping your head and rubbing your tummy or whatever it is that you do that is so difficult. So, and just put a little bit of extra in around there like that, and I'm going to just put little dots sort of around there, little dots up the side there, and then that's down there, so that we can, no, that's where the red line is going, like that, all the way across there. Then this can come around like that, and then we want a little bit of bumper at the back bumper, and then that can come up there. This is going to come sweeping around there like that, and then we want a handle on the door, so let's put the door in as well. I don't know whether this is interesting or not. Whether I've kind of, everybody's going, oh my god, this is so complicated. I don't think I thought it was going to be quite so complicated. Well, I think I probably did. I remember when I first drew Victoria, the Wednesday market bus, and it probably, to be able to do this, it probably took me about 3 hours in those days. And I've had a lot of practice since, and I'm being very, very pleased, and learning to draw her from different angles. I think that was kind of one of the tricky. I think that's always a tricky thing for illustrators generally, is being able to draw characters, and you know, we're drawing anything from different angles, from above and below and the side and whatever. So I'm going to put a little bit of shadow in there like that, and we want a bit of shadow underneath there as well. I think that will get quite dark. And I'm going to put some kind of sort of shininess in the glass. And now I'm going to do something that's really noisy. Oh, this is my hairdryer. Because before I erase all those pencil lines, I want to make sure that the ink is dry, because otherwise it's going to smudge all over the place. And now I'm going to get my paints, and I'm just going to quickly kind of colour this in. So I need some tissue paper. There we go, that's what I've got. There we are, there's some tissue paper. And this is my this is my Aquash paintbrush, which I just love this. And I know people always ask me, what is that thing you're painting with? So I'll try and remember at the end of the show. I'll put a link in there. I know teachers, when they see that, they are amazed, and they go, what? And all the water is in the handle, and it kind of flows down the brush, so you don't have dirty old jam jars and things like that to worry about. And so it's really great for sketching, and pretty good for kids if you're stuck at home. So I'll put an Amazon link if you're kind of thinking, whoa, that would be really cool to have. And and not have to keep sort of finding jam jars and messy water and stuff like that. Because I imagine during the lockdown, this is 2020. This is March the something or other, Wednesday, March the 18th, 2020. And it's very possible that somebody will be watching this in 10 years' time, 50, 100 years' time. And so I started doing this show because the coronavirus has kind of struck around the world and lots of people are stuck at home. And I thought, what can I do? What's my thing? And I thought, I'm a storyteller, so I will just share stories. And I'm an illustrator, so I'll sort of keep sharing illustration. You'll find on my channel hundreds, well, there's over 1,000 on this channel. I've got another channel, Draw Stuff Real Easy. I would point up there and say follow the link, but I'm not allowed to do links on this because it's made for kids. But you'll find a link somewhere down below. I'll try and remember to put a Draw Stuff Real Easy in there as well. And between this channel, Draw Stuff Real Easy, I don't know, I've got probably a couple of thousand videos showing you how to draw things. And right, let's get that in there like that. In fact, I'm going to just whoosh that around like that, and I'll get a bit more of that in up there like that. We probably want a bit of shade in there, and then we want to go and do some red. Oh, let's mix the red with the pink. So we get some red. So I'm painting this fairly simply. I'm not sort of going mad. Leaving little bits of white for the shininess. You know, I think if you're doing a really detailed painting, you maybe come back later and paint in sort of white gouache or something on the top. But I'm leaving little bits of white for the shiny highlights. So I'm going to make that a bit darker around there like that, a bit darker down there, maybe around there, and a bit like that. And then we need some kind of, I think I need a bit of blue in there as well. I think that's a bit too grey. So what I'm thinking is, when I finish this, then I've been thinking about how am I going to end these shows, and I've been talking to an old friend of mine called Rose Impey, who I illustrated a series with, saying, do you think we could maybe do something? And she thought that was fun. She's moved to Australia now, so I think we'd have to record it, because she'll have to be getting up at 4 in the morning, which will be ridiculous. But she and I did this series called Animal Crackers together, and they always end up with jokes, and I thought, oh, it'd be quite fun to finish these sessions with jokes. So in my time I've done a few joke books, so I can dig those out and tell you a few jokes. So if you just keep hanging on, it's gonna get hilarious. Actually it's not, because again, these joke books I did a long time ago, and I think what's really funny looking at the joke books is how things have changed, and some things get what? Jokes just don't make sense anymore. And I know I one book called the Christmas Stocking Joke Book, and I updated it last year. And as I was going through, I'm thinking, what was that joke all about? Because it must have been funny at the time. And just things change, and things that are funny, and especially if you've got, you're talking about pop stars at the time or something who were famous at the time that nobody can remember anymore, which is a little sad, isn't it? And that kind of thing. So that's gone a bit too dark across there, isn't it? But there we go. I think I'm going to call that it. And I can go. Yeah, there we go. There we go. So well, I hope you like that. And as I say, if you want to draw your version of Victoria the Wednesday Market Bus, put it onto Twitter. You could put it onto Facebook. Not Facebook. You could put it onto Instagram. So I might look at Instagram. It's a bit complicated. I really need one place to look, but I think Twitter is best. And if you can't put it onto Twitter, maybe your teacher will collect them up and put them on with the class Twitter account, something like that. Get your mum and dad, anybody to put them on. And then if you do a really nice one, I will show that on the show. When I get it and put it on. So here we have the Ready Teddy Go joke book, which I did for Puffin. Oh, and let me show you. I'll go over the overhead. Oh, I'm going to zoom in a bit. Oh, I'm going to zoom. Because what I did was I did a little flick book down at the bottom here, and we got Ready Teddy, go. So we've got a little flip book, and I don't know if this will work. So Ready Teddy, and you go finish, and we don't see the last page. Oh, dying, he falls over, and very tired Teddy. There we go. That was really difficult to do at the time. Nowadays you do it on the computer and you can do all sorts of easy things, but it was quite difficult to work out how to do that in those days. When was this published? This was a long time ago. 1991. Goodness me. So here we have Puffin saying, "Say cheese," and the bear is saying, "Camembert." Oh dear. Sports day. How do you start a teddy bear race? Ready, Teddy, go. Wait a minute. Oh, there should be... Oh, no, I should press that and you should get laughter. Oh, why does it do that, I wonder? It's not working, is it? It's just not working. I do that and then I go... That's really weird, isn't it? It's not that funny. What do we get? So, did you hear about the cute Teddy with the turned up nose? Every time she sneezed, her hat flew off. Oh dear. What is the difference between a teddy bear? One of his legs is both the same. I really needed a groan sound there. I should have Okay, I'll get one of those next time. So here we have two teddies. Let me show you. Is that the one? Here we have two teddy bears. This one's going, "You remind me of the sea." Oh, what, because I'm wild, reckless and romantic? No, because you make me sick. No, this one says, "Your teddy is full of holes." I know. I just don't give a darn. It's not funny anymore. It probably wasn't that funny when I did it, really. Nobody darns anything anymore, do they? So in the old days when you got holes in... Nobody gets holes in their socks anymore because they've all got full of elastane and stuff. But in the old days you used to get holes in your socks all the time, and so you would have to darn them to mend them. And I suppose you would darn it. Yeah, no, I think I had a teddy bear that got darned when they got holes in it and all the stuffing came out. I don't think that happens anymore. So here we are. My teddy got hit on the head and now he's got a Ted-ache. And I've lost my memory. Since when? Since what? It doesn't really deserve a laugh, does it? No, that's no. So, and then here we are. When you write joke books, it's really quite difficult because you've got a theme of teddy bears, and there aren't that many teddy bear jokes, and so you have to kind of find ways of fitting other jokes in. So here's the teddy bear's picnic. You see, there's the theme, but that means I can just do food jokes. So, how do you start a milk pudding race? Say go. Nobody has say go pudding I don't think anybody has milk pudding anymore. I suppose nearest thing is rice pudding. Does anybody even have rice pudding anymore? Tell me on Twitter. At Shoo Rayner. What is that fly doing on the ice cream? He's learning to ski. Yeah. Is that roast pork or an old radio? I don't know, but it's got a lot of crackling. These are terrible, aren't they? Why are cooks so cruel? Because they beat eggs, they whip cream, and they batter fish. I think that's a kind of cruelty to food joke now, isn't it? I don't. Would I be allowed that joke nowadays? Oh, you can't see it. How do you make a sausage roll? You push it down the hill. And did you see the salad bowl? No, but I saw the horse box. Oh dear, oh dear, oh dear, oh dear. Let me come back to that. So they get a lot worse. So there we go, and I think we could probably wrap up for today. So thank you very much for watching, and don't forget, if you've got comments and things, if you do a drawing, have a look at yesterday's as well. I'll put a link down below. Have a look at yesterday's show. And what did we have? We had Ricky Rocket, and I drew Spike Trackaway, the intergalactic dodecathlon champion. So if you draw him too, put it onto Twitter, and you can put hashtag Shooby-Doodle, which makes it easier for me to find, and then I will show everybody your work on this show. And in the meantime, keep watching, reading, drawing, practice, and I'll see you next time. And then I'm just going to press this button. Cheerio. Take care. And keep safe. Well, thanks for watching, and if you enjoyed that, then please do make sure you are subscribed to the Shoo Rayner drawing channel, and while you're about it, click the little bell next to the subscribe button and you will be notified when the next live drawing video will be. In the meantime, keep drawing, practice, and I'll see you next time. You take care now. Bye bye.